And gone are the days where we could just say, oh, this person has enormous talent. It always also then has to be a conversation about their lifestyle, who they are as a person, all the things they endorse. And that by enjoying their talent, they also need you to endorse who they are as people. And they feel like the conversation needs to be much more broadly about them and their self-expression and less about the talent. And when we live in a world where the Kim Kardashians are being elevated to the same people who have actual talent, then Cynthia Erivo coming out looking like a Christmas ham and needing you to endorse her wild sense of style as well as her voice, it's all just getting mixed up in this strange world where talent or no talent, weirdness rules the day. I'm tired of mediocrity overselling talent, and I'm tired of talent being buried in weirdness. Can't we just have good things that are good on their own merits without also having to be laced with insanity? Happy Friday, everyone. My name is Cheer Denise, and we have a packed show today. Now, we're going to jump right into it with the fact that Meghan Markle has decided that it's time for her to return to the screen. I feel really confused about why the people who are making this movie want to include somebody who cannot do anything right. And I think the thing that surprises me the most is just that if Meghan had a history of doing things exceptionally well and receiving a lot of praise for her efforts, then I would say let her return to the big screen. But it just seems to me that with such a history of failure and such a poor reputation, why would you doom your project by involving her? Part of me feels like we are at a point now where it is less important that the content of a movie or a show have any worth or value as a project, but it's more like, what hype can I get? How will social media react? Can I get a couple of viral bits from the show? And this is a complaint that we heard from the Hollywood Reporter when they were reviewing Kim Kardashian's new show, All's Fair, but we'll get there. I think shows that involve uber famous people are asking just for some cheap publicity, some quick dollars, and the whole idea of art, the whole idea of a well-done project is sort of seemingly a thing of the past. Not always, but it just feels like, why are we involving Meghan Markle? What is the point? I know she was an actress. She can't stop reminding us that she was on a set where there was hundreds of people on staff. She tells us about that all the time. Every single time she's been interviewed, she wants to remind you that she was a working actress at one point. But the only thing that we really know from her is from her show Suits. And most people would never have even watched that show, except for the fact that they have gone back to see it since Meghan was on it. But it really has nothing to do with people wanting to see that show because it wasn't a great show. So Meghan is going to be in a movie. And not surprisingly, she's going to be in a movie playing herself. Really? How is Meghan going to authentically play herself? She's not going to do it to get a laugh. So then is she going to play a straight version of herself? That's going to be cringe as all get out. I would love to see that. I would love to see how she believes herself to be. I think an interpretation of Meghan Markle as Meghan Markle would be chef's kiss when it comes to cringe. But I just don't know if I was making this movie, I would think it a great commercial idea to get somebody as awkward and incapable of presenting herself in real life to present herself in a screen version of herself. Doesn't that just seem like a terrible plan for the overall project? And everybody else, they are all going to come second to an extremely D-list actress just because she happens to be married to a prince. She's not famous for anything beyond that. She's famous for being disliked. Now, the storyline for Close Personal Friends is two couples. One couple is not well known, the other couple is. You can only imagine which couple Meghan is. The not famous couple meets the famous couple, and things begin to deteriorate as they get closer together. And that's all that I've been able to figure out on the storyline. You guys, I don't know about that. I mean, does that sound like an interesting show to you? Who's supposed to be the disagreeable couple in this scenario? I feel like automatically, if you were making a satire of this, it would be the rich couple, it would be the Meghan Markle couple, right? But I don't think Meghan's going to agree to play a character where she's disliked. I don't think she's going to do anything where she's being mocked. I think the last time she allowed herself to be mocked by someone was when Ellen DeGeneres asked her to go on the street and suck on a bottle while she squatted in the street. Like, that was really weird. I can't believe that Meghan agreed to that. Meghan now would never. I think she just got a little smarter about the way the world would turn on her. That's why she's always so seemingly careful about what she says. But I just can't imagine her willingly walking into something that would make satire of her life, especially because she's going to be playing herself. Now, if she was going to play somebody else, if she was going to play another character that she would like you to dislike, if she was going to play another version of somebody that she would like you to direct your ire to, I can imagine her playing a rather scathing version of that person to highlight your need to dislike that kind of person. But she's not going to play herself in a disagreeable role. So what's the setup? We're supposed to dislike the poor couple? This is the thing. If we were going to watch a movie that genuinely pitted each couple against each other for legitimate reasons, like they were both equally annoying and that's why things weren't quite working out because both of them had quirks and everything, that would be a more honest version. But I just don't see any version of a movie where Meghan Markle tries to play a disagreeable person in any context. I would be absolutely shocked. She does not have a sense of humor, and I think it requires a sense of humor to make fun of yourself. I think it requires a pretty small ego to be able to laugh at yourself or call yourself out. And we just know Meghan doesn't look at herself that way. She does not have the ability to laugh at herself. She doesn't even have the ability to sort of laugh at someone like her. You know, so fearful is she that you'll draw ties to who she is. So, I will be watching this. I think the show comes on through Amazon. I think it's an Amazon show. So I guess she has really left the Netflix pack. But I'm interested to see what really comes of this. As I said at the beginning of the show, these shows that highlight the extremely famous and sort of try to build the show regardless of this person's fame and act like we're not supposed to be completely distracted by the famous person who really shouldn't be in the show. And we're just supposed to watch it and enjoy it like we would any other piece of entertainment. It's not possible. And we saw this in glaring relief when Kim Kardashian's show came out this week called All's Fair. I don't think I've ever seen anybody act this badly in all my life.
What's with the overnight bag? Is there a game I didn't know about?
Can we sit down and talk?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm confused with what's going on here. Okay. Are you just having a bad day or something? Midlife crisis? Sounds like it. What are you talking about? You're famous. You have 3 Super Bowl rings. Oh. Okay, I understand what's going on here. I get it. What you're saying is that my big life is just too rich for that little Philly kid. You want a divorce. What are you talking about?
And I think the thing that surprises me so much about Kim Kardashian's acting skills is that her whole life has been on reality TV, which has been one series of false storyline after another. I'm not saying that everything on the show is completely false, but it's like, okay, we're going to do these storylines and we're going to ad-lib. So I thought that she would be better at this. Obviously, judging by the first seasons of the Kardashian show, which are so painful to watch because everybody is such bad actors. But as the show progressed, they all seemed more comfortable in front of the camera. And I sort of had begun to believe that they'd also become better actors. I did believe that they were highlighting some more actual events of their life because as they became more famous, they didn't have to come up with as many lame storylines to keep the show going. Their life was already incredibly chaotic. So just film what's going on. Okay, well, I then assumed that if Kim Kardashian got a role as an actress, she probably wouldn't be Oscar worthy, but, you know, she could ad-lib her part or seem comfortable in front of the camera or feel like you would get this sense that she at least could talk like a normal person in front of a camera. You guys, if I bet money on that, I would be crawling to the poorhouse right now because this is some of the worst acting I've ever seen in my life. I am talking about rigid, robotic, over-rehearsed. I've never, in all of my life, watched somebody walk across the screen and ask myself, is this the first time they've ever walked? I mean, it's like she's concentrating so hard on the next turn, the next walk, the next crossing of her arms, that you can see her mind working as you're watching. You can see her being like, now I need to say, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, did you really mean that? Like, it's the weirdest, most robotic. I'm like, is that Kim Kardashian, or did you guys make a robot? I mean, the other thing that's really distracting is just that it's Kim Kardashian. Her face and her body are way too abnormal to be on the set of anything, and I'm supposed to believe it. So the context of this show is that Kim Kardashian is like this super, super wealthy, successful lawyer. And that's about all I got from the clips I've seen. And she's dating this football player who doesn't want to be with her anymore because life is just way too elite for him. Like, he doesn't like all the staff. He doesn't like the huge house. It doesn't feel cozy. It doesn't feel natural to him. And he's wanting to break up with her. So we get this scene where they're breaking up. And I'm just like, Kim, you have a lot of life experience to pull from here. Is this the best you could bring? Her body is so distracting in this movie because Kim's body is not a typical body. It's abnormal that you would cast somebody with such dramatic proportions and think that the show can go on. It cannot. Then you add to the fact that the people doing costumes give us this number. Kim's supposed to be playing a professional lawyer who goes to court with their thong hanging out, plus their ass. And we're just supposed to watch the show and be like, bravo, Kim, expanding your career. What is this show? And the Hollywood Reporter called it out so deftly because they said, this show is more interested in the world mining it for viral bits than it was ever interested in writing a good show. And the acting is terrible because the script is terrible, according to the Hollywood Reporter. Now, again, I've not watched all of this, and part of me now wants to watch it because it's so bad it would be like delicious hate watching. But I don't have time to hate watch things like this, especially if I'm not going to make content on it. The only time I ever involve myself in a bunch of trash is if I'm going to come talk to you guys about it, which is why I listened to all of Kevin Federline's book and brought you some excellent tidbits. If you haven't seen that coverage, I think some people thought I was reading the book word for word, and they were like, oh, I'm out. Believe me, friends, would I ever do that to you? Well, you're like, yes, you did. You tried to read Jada Pinkett Smith book to us. But you guys, I've reformed and learned. So if you did not decide to tune into the Kevin Federline book because you thought this was me reading it to you, believe me, I would not. I just read it and gave you the summary. But yesterday's episode, I think, was excellent. And I think that out of fear, people didn't want to gauge because it is Kevin Federline. I have to say, if I were you, I'd go listen. I'm not sorry to plug my own show when I feel like it was as good as yesterday's. So help yourself. Junk TV can only be watched if you're going to talk about it with other people. Junk books can only be read if you get a chance to talk about it with somebody else. And I just don't think that you guys would be that interested in a blow-by-blow of what Kim Kardashian is doing. Because all we essentially need to get from the show is that it's like a, why did y'all make this moment? Why was Kim ever given an opportunity to be in the show? And there are big names in this show that she's in. And again, what is the deal with these other celebrities? Are they just desperate for a payday that they're like, Kim Kardashian will bring in the money? Meghan Markle's the worst, but the publicity that's going to come around this movie because she's in it and people will watch it, I'll just have to hook my wagon to her deteriorating star. I feel like I have so little respect for the actors and the artists who decide to involve themselves in a project that is so clearly only being created for money and clickbaits and viral views. I guess work is work, and if it's not necessarily like degrading to your soul, like be in it, I guess, if you're just looking to keep the lights on and food on the table. But I guess what I think is, if I were an actor and I had some of the fame that a lot of these people do, I know I wouldn't be so desperate for a paycheck that I had to do some of this stuff. This woman right here, she's real famous. Why did she agree to sit next to Kim Kardashian? Kim Kardashian is over there trying to convince her that the moon landing was fake, which... But I'm just wondering, like, what was going on in this actress's life where she's like, I will just take a lead in a show with Kim Kardashian and her big ass, and everything will come second to what Kim's doing, even though it's really terrible acting, and even though she looks crazy, and even though these costumes are doing nothing for Kim. These outfits are terrible. Like, Kim, I think, in real life, I've heard this about her many times, that in photographs and on film, she looks like she's much bigger than she is, but in reality, she's actually quite petite. You guys, really? Who was in charge of making her look like her proportions? Because she looks exaggerated in every extreme. And then her face, you guys, and maybe it's just because we're so tired of the Kim Kardashian face, it's everywhere. But I know there was a time when Kim was beautiful. I believe that there was. It's hard for me to recall it. But there was a time when her face was a lot more unique looking. And now that everyone's trying to look like a Kardashian, Kim's face is like a knockoff Louis Vuitton bag, where even if you have a real one, is it even worth having? Because everyone has a fake. I feel the same way about a Rolex watch. I've never wanted one, even if I could afford it. There's so many knockoffs. What's the value in my real one now? Because from a distance, you can't tell. What are you going to get up in my face, pull my watch to your ear and listen to see if it ticks or swishes? According to Prince Andrew, there's a difference. Excuse me. Andrew Mountbatten, Windsor. But I don't want to have something that is so oft repeated as a fake that I can't tell what the real one is anymore. And that's how I feel about Kim. I feel like she's lost a lot of her allure because of all the fakes and all of the copycats of the Kardashian look. Now I feel like whatever it was that she was bringing originally, or the only thing that ever enticed people to her, has lost its charm because of all of the copycats. I don't know who was doing her hair. I don't know who was doing her makeup. It's all just terrible. But I think the other thing that was really interesting to me as far as the Kardashian acting here is that sister Kourtney, the one who has built her brand on being the most obnoxious of the crew.
Who let you choose black covers for your furniture? It's disgusting.
Seriously, what the is wrong with you? Why are you so bitchy these days?
Just a bored bitch.
Who has a side business where she makes various gummies and snake medicine, has released recently a commercial in which she's talking about this colostrum gummy that she's just made that's supposed to like make your skin so glowy and dewy. And for a person who can't stop talking about how bad sugar is for you and how it needs to only be organics, I find it interesting that all of her supplements are essentially candy. But anyway, she recently came out with a commercial, and Kim is supposed to be acting as a lawyer in this commercial. And even though it's all supposed to be satire and jokes, I would tell you that I think Kim did better acting in this joke commercial with her sister than she did in the TV show where she was with actual actors.
In this family, we share everything. NDAs, glam squads, group chats, and yes, supplements. So when I found out she was working on Lemmy Colostrum, I waited and waited and waited. Meanwhile, Kourtney was looking more face-tuned by the day, but she kept saying, Kim, it's not ready yet.
And I'm thinking, Kim, are you just really intimidated by the skill level around you and you were frozen? Is this you being intimidated by actual skill in the room? Why is it that she could do a fair job at acting with her sister, but she can't manage on an actual set? And I think it's because this is just more of the kind of acting she does with her family. And that's the kind of acting she knows how to do. But if you give her a script with actual words that she has to say, I am telling you, it is as though somebody just threw a bunch of sand in the works of her brain because things were grinding in her head. And it was painful to watch. Speaking of things that were really painful to witness, last Friday was Halloween, as you know. Now, obviously in Hollywood, Halloween is a big deal. There's always these huge Halloween parties where people come dressed to the nines in extravagant costumes. Heidi Klum's party, the most notable one. And this year she came as Medusa. And everyone always likes to see what she's going to do. But I found her costume the least interesting because it was expected. Let's talk about some of the costumes that were real eye-raising, okay? Now, Julia Fox, who we've talked about ad nauseum on this show because she always comes to award ceremonies and red carpets with exactly zero idea on how to present herself, decided to up the ante when it came to tastelessness at Halloween and put on a costume of Jackie Kennedy having just been present at the assassination of her husband. Here she is in a blood-stained Chanel suit, coming as Jackie Kennedy. You guys. I mean, Halloween is a time when people do all kinds of scary and frightening things. And quite frankly, this is very scary and frightening. It's quite on the nose. But it's just tasteless. To parody and to laugh at and to make fun of somebody's worst day, and the country's worst day in a lot of respects, it's just shocking. I wouldn't expect anything less of this sad person, because Julia Fox is a person who doesn't have any bounds. She doesn't have anything in her mind that tells her, pump the brakes, slow down, maybe don't. It's like, how crazy can it be? And then I'll double down on that. And she got extreme backlash. People did not think it was funny. They did not think it was clever, even though it is very horrific and the day calls for all kinds of horror. It's interesting that somehow we can bestir our moral conscience to be horrified by frightening things when it comes to the Kennedy family. But there's lots of people who dressed up to mock other assassinations, and there didn't seem to be enough of an outcry about that. So I guess if it's the Kennedy family, it's no. But if it's the Kirk family, help yourself. It's really sad. It's weird. Yeah, it was just weird to me to see conscience on one level, but no ability to contain ourselves on another. On a less serious note, Kayla Nicole came dressed as Tony Braxton in the video He Wasn't Man Enough. Now you say to yourself, who in the world is Kayla Nicole? I don't blame you for not knowing. Kayla Nicole was Travis Kelce's girlfriend before Taylor Swift. And it would appear that Kayla is pretty bitter about all the attention that Travis and Taylor Swift are getting, because nobody cared about Travis back when she was with him. And now everyone's always talking about Travis, and everyone's celebrating his engagement to Taylor Swift and acting like it's the best thing ever. Well, she doesn't think it is, and so she decided to be real petty about it. She comes out as Tony Braxton. And if you don't recall the lyrics from Tony Braxton, He's Just Not Man Enough, let me read those for you. Some of the lyrics go, don't you know that he was my man, but I chose to let him go. So why do you act like I still care about him? Look at me like I'm hurt when I'm the one who said I didn't want it to work. It goes on to say, what you thinking? Stop blaming me. He wasn't man enough for me. If you don't know now that he's your chance, I've already had your man. Do you wonder just where he's been? Don't be worried about him. Now it's time you know the truth. I think he's just the man for you. What are you thinking? Do you know about us back then? You know I dumped your husband, girlfriend. I'm not thinking about him, but you married him. Do you know I made him leave? Do you know he begged to stay with me? He wasn't man enough for me. Listen, girl, didn't he tell you the truth? If not, then why don't you ask him? Then maybe you can be more into him instead of worrying about me. And hopefully you won't find all the reasons why his love didn't count and why we couldn't work it out. Goes on and on and on likewise. One of the stupidest, most petty songs of all time. Kayla, why are you doing that? You don't like him. Y'all aren't together anymore. And if he wants to marry Taylor Swift, more power to him. If she wants to marry him, more power to him. But to make your whole Halloween costume about the fact that you're bitter about somebody getting with somebody else, but you're going to be passive aggressive about it, I can see why he's not with you anymore. What a lame thing to do. It's so lame. But is it as lame as Lily Allen coming out dressed as Madeline for Halloween? Now, what are you talking about, Cheer? Well, let me tell you. As you'll recall from this channel, we read all the lyrics from Lily Allen's album West End Girl, in which she is scathingly retelling the story of how her husband, David Harbour of Stranger Things, cheated on her for years in their marriage, and then she stumbled upon it when she was going through his phone. And she finds texts from a girl who she has called in her songs Madeline. Now, she comes to Halloween dressed as Madeline, but Madeline from the children's book character, the little delightful story about the orphan girl who falls in the water, but then her dog saves her. And then the dog goes missing, but then they find the dog and she has puppies and everybody at the orphanage gets their own dog. That Madeline, don't confuse things. But of course, Lily Allen is having a full-on crash out because she came to an awards ceremony recently dressed like this. And everyone's saying that it's a revenge costume, etc., etc., etc. Now, post doing the lyrics from West End Girl and reading them to you all in a very dramatic fashion, I had a good time with that. I decided that I would go and read her biography. She wrote a memoir detailing her life and the breakdown of her first marriage with Sam Cooper and the loss of her first baby. And I wanted to read the book because I thought, who is this person who would write an album like she did about David Harbour? Granted, I think what he did was terrible. But I just thought, what an interesting way to deal with it by airing all your laundry in music. And not that that is so atypical. Most songwriters who go through a breakup will allude to it. But I mean, this is not an alluding to. This was a diary word for word of what had happened. Nothing's cloaked in secrecy. I mean, it is bam, bam, bam in your face. Some of the most scandalous and scathing things I've ever read or heard about. And I just wondered, like, what brought you to this place? And as I was reading about her breakup to Sam and all the things that she did in that relationship that were just incredibly damaging. And the whole time it was all because she wanted Sam to come rescue her and he just never did. I'm like, well, I don't blame Sam. You know, you're acting wild in America, sleeping with anything that moves, drinking, smoking, taking drugs. And you want Sam to just rise above it and come rescue you? I mean, it's like, okay, well, I can see why you didn't. But then when David decides to spurn her and do basically the same thing she did to Sam, like the same things, suddenly she can't handle it. And she's wanting to come out and write an album and then base her Halloween costume off of the betrayal. And then she wants to come out in this tiny little number with her breast barely covered. And it's supposed to be revenge so that David feels bad. I mean, he should feel bad. I'm not saying that he shouldn't, but why do you even care what he thinks? Like, he's such, like, in your words, he's such a scumbag. The only thing I can think is that Lily Allen did a lot of terrible things in her past and then had met David and thought, I want to be a better person. I don't want to do those things to David, and I certainly wouldn't want him to do those things to me, and we're going to have a relationship in which we wouldn't do those things to each other. I'm a different person than I was when I was married to Sam. Just because I did those things in the past doesn't mean I think that that is the way to behave. And when I met David and when I married David, I was on a completely different moral trajectory. And I thought he was too. So that's the only reason I can think as to why she can justify her rage and indignation is because she'd made a different deal with David than she'd even made with herself when she was married to David Cooper. No, or Sam Cooper, sorry. And I think maybe her indignation isn't that she can't comprehend why someone would do this, but it's just that they'd agreed not to be those people, and then he was anyway. But at what point are you just going to decide that the whole world doesn't have to be involved in your pain? I don't get it. Because she's really annoyed and angry all the time that everybody has dissected her life. But she writes a tell-all memoir in which she literally holds nothing back. Then she writes an album later after the deterioration of her other marriage, detailing everything, leaving nothing to the imagination. She comes out in a Halloween costume about it, and then she wants to prance around and be like, this is revenge. David needs to see what is missing. Well, I mean, okay, but then don't be mad that people are talking about your life when you dish it up for us like this, you know? I don't get it. Meanwhile, David Harbour's problems continue to expand because while Lily Allen is writing scathing albums about his sexual indiscretions, Millie Bobby Brown, his co-star on Stranger Things, is coming out saying that he bullied her for years. And as they've been doing the last season of Stranger Things, she approached that season by filing allegations against him of bullying. Now, he's 50 and she's 21, so at any point, if he was bullying her in any way, what the heck, man? I mean, you're way too old. Why are you bullying a little kid? Now, I have not read or heard much details about specific allegations. But suffice it to say, David's having a real tough time. Regardless of the fact that the allegations are out there, though, Millie Bobby Brown and David Harbour came to the premiere of this season. So, arriving together kind of puts the kibosh on rumors that it was really, really terrible between them. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying I think, and it would appear that they have settled things enough to be around each other for this premiere. So, I don't know. I'd love for David to come out and say his side of things. He's alluded to it slightly and said that, you know, things got a little wobbly for him, you know, the last couple of years, but he hasn't been like, yeah, and then I had this secret house that I told my wife was a dojo, but really it's where I brought people. You know, he's not gotten as open as Lily Allen, which at this point, I don't know, I'm trying to figure out, like, should he or shouldn't he? What would be better? Would it be better to just stay silent and make, you know, let her spin out? Because she has a history of spinning out when things don't go right. with her husbands after Sam Cooper and she divorced, or they weren't even divorced yet. They were just not living in the same house, but they weren't even officially separated or officially divorced. She had already moved on and had a new boyfriend, which Sam knew about. But then when they got divorced and Sam had a new girlfriend, Lily couldn't handle it. Literally lost her mind and had to be committed. Like screaming, breaking dishes, burning herself with cigarettes, like the family had to take her to the mental institution. So she definitely has a double standard in life. You know, she can do it, but you can't do it. And if she does it, you can't question her. She's just learning and experiencing and growing. And if you do things, then you're just a monster. 4chan Stan, I believe is what she calls it. Okay, let's move on to some other celebrities. Jennifer Lawrence and Robert Pattinson were recently in a film together, and everybody seems to be loving it. I know nothing about the film, but I do know that the two of them love to talk about how much they enjoyed working together. And Jennifer Lawrence has come out to say that they did not need an intimacy coordinator. But that's because Robert is really respectful, really easy to work with, and so in love with his wife that she had no cares or concerns about whether he was getting weird vibes from her that she was into him, because gosh, isn't that the worst. Jennifer Lawrence likes to act like everybody's in love with her, which it does appear that everyone is. So maybe she has real issues and maybe her concerns are founded in reality. But she said it was just so good to be with somebody who you didn't have to worry was going to read into everything. You know, Robert's just a healthy person in that way. So no intimacy coordinator needed. I believe the intimacy coordinator was his hair. Who wants to get down with this mop? I mean, my gosh, what happened here? How does he come to the red carpet having never been introduced to a bottle of shampoo? Seems to have historic disdain for cleansing himself. So don't tell me you didn't need an intimacy coordinator. I already know it. Other people in the news this week was Sam Smith. When is he not in the news? This guy's whole personality is how weird can he be? I don't like people whose biggest claim to fame is how weird they can be. But he came out and he was talking about how when he was 13, he got liposuction on his chest because as he was getting older and he was on the chubbier side as a kid, he began to develop breasts, even though he was a boy. And so he wanted to get liposuction and his parents were super supportive of that. He said he was getting like bullied and stuff and he didn't like to go to the pool and stuff because he was embarrassed. So they were like, yes, absolutely, get liposuction.
Because I had like a growing chest.
Right.
Oh, wow.
And there was, you know, all sorts of reasons why, but mainly I was just getting so teased. I couldn't like go swimming in school and I couldn't like getting changed in the locker room was hell. So I got liposuction when I was 13 years old.
What was it like convincing your parents?
They were supportive. They were hugely supportive of the whole thing because they just saw how much it was crippling everything about me.
On a 13-year-old? No wonder Sam's so crazy now. Where were his parents? What were they thinking? I mean, I understand being embarrassed and ashamed. I was a chubby kid too. My whole life has been one embarrassing episode after another. But I always knew, and my parents would have confirmed to me if I had asked them, that the real situation is not that I needed plastic surgery at the age of 13. Get up off the couch. Like, go do some exercise, work out. Like, his parents didn't even seem to think that they needed to implement maybe a different home regimen or, like, let's all work out together as a family. It was just immediately like, oh, Sam wants plastic surgery. Yes, son, absolutely, we'll get it for you. What kind of parenting is that? Okay. In the comments, if you had a child who was struggling with their weight and there was real shame around it because people are mean and bullying and you also were concerned that you didn't want your child to go through life where they were struggling with their weight and learning bad habits early that were just going to continue to fester, would you at the age of 13 be like, let's just solve this problem quickly and we'll figure out later like a more sustainable way for you to keep the weight off? Or would you say, let's start working out together? I feel like I know what you're all going to say because you're sane people. That's why you're here. But liposuction on a 13-year-old, what is that teaching them? Like, one, that everybody's disdain of them is valid, so they should quickly change themselves to justify themselves in everybody's eyes. That's the obvious first lesson. But then what about the lesson of just working on self-restraint? You know, it is hard. Believe me, I know. But I just don't see, like, what the problem is here. And he doesn't, in the retelling of it, he seems to think that it's like just this fun fact about him. And I'm just like, was this the beginning of the end for you, Sam? When your parents just let you call the shots and then you just did it and nobody gave you any pushback and nobody tried to counsel you towards a different way? I was talking to my sister the other day, and Cassie was saying that she feels like part of the reason that there's such anxiety in this younger generation is that they are always calling the shots and the parents are always acquiescing to whatever crazy that they want to do. And a lot of anxiety produced when it's like, am I in charge of all this? So my life is actually in my hands? I don't know how many kids actually want that to be their reality. I think most kids want to feel like they don't have the final say because they don't feel prepared to have the final say. How anxiety inducing. But Sam Smith has made his entire career based on saying things that shock you. And he comes from a long line in the pop music industry of people who have made their name not necessarily on their talent, but on how much they can shock you. And this has been a problem that has plagued us since the 80s. It's just something that is now part of the music industry. It doesn't matter so much your talent. It matters, can I get your eyes on me? And we as a society are over there throwing flowers at the people who do manage to get our attention, and then we seem to ask very little of them beyond that. We seem to think that them getting our attention is worthy of us rewarding them with fame and fortune, and I feel like this is exactly why the Kardashians are famous. We're all over here acting like because they managed to get our attention, that validates what it is they have to offer. But upon getting our attention, they never have anything else to give. And Sam Smith, I feel like, is a person who has become enormously well known based solely on the fact that he's just a general oddball. Deciding to do a show that is like based in hell was a weird, wild thing to do. Walking around looking like this all the time is weird and wild, and telling us a story about how when he was 13, he got liposuction on his chest because that was easier than getting a workout program and his parents endorsing that is just another story he gets to tell where he relishes in your shock and amazement that anything like that ever happened to him. And I think that what sickens me about the world of entertainment right now is just like we were talking about earlier with Meghan and with Kim Kardashian, these are shows that are relying entirely on the fact that there will be bits from the whole production that will go viral, and that's how they'll make their money. And we are now a society that doesn't really care about a completed, beautiful product. Now we just care, can I grab 30 seconds here, 60 seconds there to make a reel, to get your attention, to get you to watch it, to go viral? And it's wild that we would even bother to make these huge productions, these huge performances, get other people to buy into it and use their talent for something that ultimately will end up being a couple of 3-minute clips at most to get viral and to get people's attention. And that nobody's going to invest their time in the whole All's Fair show. And nobody's going to invest all their time in the entire movie that Meghan Markle's in. It's just about getting a few moments that you'll pay attention to. And I'm tired of living in a society that rewards mediocrity simply because you got me to glance over at it. And I'm tired of all of us asking so very little of our performers. You know, Cynthia Erivo is another person like that, where she has enormous talent, but the conversation that's generated around her has continued mostly because she is an oddball. She's always doing things that are supposed to make you shocked, but then you're not supposed to actually be shocked. And she just has this like general sense of, you have to accept my talent while also endorsing my queerness and my lifestyle. And I'm tired of all of these celebrities coming out, wilding out, being rather strange, and then saying that if you enjoy my talent, you must also enjoy who I am as a person. And gone are the days where we could just say, oh, this person has enormous talent. It always also then has to be a conversation about their lifestyle, who they are as a person, all the things they endorse, and that by enjoying their talent, they also need you to endorse who they are as people. And they feel like the conversation needs to be much more broadly about them and their self-expression and less about the talent. And when we live in a world where the Kim Kardashians are being elevated to the same people who have actual talent, then Cynthia Erivo coming out looking like a Christmas ham and needing you to endorse her wild sense of style as well as her voice, it's all just getting mixed up in this strange world where talent or no talent, weirdness rules the day. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of mediocrity overselling talent. And I'm tired of talent being buried in weirdness. Can't we just have good things that are good on their own merits without also having to be laced with insanity? Speaking of insanity, did you guys see the Olsen twins recently? Good God, what is happening to those girls? We haven't seen them in a while. At least I haven't seen them in a while. And of course, they ruled the world when they were younger. They had clothing lines, TV shows, movies. I remember a time when everybody in my circle loved them some Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen. You know, they were just like living the life that you wish you were living. They were so cute, had all the clothes that, you know, everybody thought they were the cutest. All the boys liked them. And I just remember as a twin myself being like, but I'm a twin. Why am I not famous? You know, so I had my own problems with the Olsen twins. But everybody admired them. They were super mainstream. And then they decided to shed that and become sort of gaunt, frightening figures in cast-off clothes. They also got involved with incredibly older men. It was like, what's going on here, you guys? Is everything okay? You know. Recently, they came out to accept an award. And they both came dressed alike. And you guys, as a twin, I don't understand this. Cassie, do we get it? No. Because I don't know why they are wearing the identical outfits at their age. They're older than I am. I'm 37. They're older than I am. And I can tell you right now, never in all of my adult life, and I don't even remember as a young person, wanting to dress like my twin sister. Because it's already a slog trying to be seen as an individual. Why would I then dress like the person who looks exactly like me so that we can continue to confuse the world? We sound alike. We have the same personality, practically. Why would I also want to dress the same? I mean, I don't understand wanting to have a clone in this world. A best friend, absolutely. But I can speak for Cassie and I can speak for myself when I say that neither one of us would ever want to walk around purposefully smudging who we are as an individual into the other person. I don't get it, especially as grown people. But this relationship has always been rather strange and codependent. And they come in holding each other almost like scared little girls. And then we see the pictures of them and their eyes, you guys. What is going on with the eyes? Frightening. And not one picture that I see did not produce this face. That's a scary face, you guys. We've all known that they were lovers of the duck lips since way back in the day. But the duck lip, which has been adopted by so many, I can't even be focused on because the eyes are so frightening. The huge eyes that seem never to blink. I was terrified. I found their faces frightening. And that is a rabbit hole that I think I would like to go down. What happened with the Olsen twins? What is their deal? What were they involved in? Who knows what happened to them? Because everyone's always yammering on about Britney Spears. She's suffering so obviously. But Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen were also child stars that seem to be faring quite badly. Are they really rich? Yes. They have more money than they know what to do with. But they look like the most frightened, hollowed out versions of humans I've ever seen. Their faces are like a mask of terror. And I don't know what it is that they're seeing. You know, why do they look like that? Why are they putting on these masks so you can't see who they really are? What do they have to tell us? What stories do they know? Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen are some people who could talk. All right, well, that is all that I have to say today. I had a couple of other things I want to talk about, but I'm just going to have to find some time next week to talk to you guys about it. Because there's quite a few things that are going to hit the editing floor today. But I'll find time to scrape them all together and make another episode. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me. As always, if you enjoyed, please like and subscribe and comment. Also, if you've been enjoying any of the videos lately, please send them to a friend who you think might enjoy them. I always appreciate when you do. All right, I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks again. See you Monday. Bye.